So I got into a discussion the other day with some of the coaches, just a group of agile coaches that I've worked with off and on over the years. One of the things that I was talking about is that while I don't think that we can completely replace business professionals and obviously people with experience, the question is, can ChatGPT help me create certain artifacts? And I think it can help you with almost every single deliverable that you have. So what I want to do is I just want to walk through an example of how would I create a prompt to help me create a problem statement? So the interesting thing is in a lot of cases, you probably have a document or something that in our coaching, we used to use things called activity guides. So it described what a problem statement was and the format. So you can either pull that in or just give it that information. But I'm just going to scroll through, walk you through how I would create a prompt to create a problem statement. The interesting thing is that there's this talk about becoming a prompt engineer. The thing is that ChatGPT is actually a way better prompt engineer than you and I could ever be. So I'm going to use it to create the prompts that I'm going to then turn into a GPT, if that makes sense. If you look at my screen here, basically I start off with the typical stuff. As a product manager, we use problem statement to clarify a problem, give it an introduction. And so this is the where I want to start. Now, this is information that I have before. Here's the answer format that I want the problem statement in, gave it an example of a problem statement. Then there's some guidance on each of the pieces in the problem statement. So for example, problem identification, you'll see that's in the format. So I just fed that in to give it I'm just trying to give it some context. Okay. So then down in here, I'm going to highlight it and then unhighlight it. So this is where I basically start to talk to ChatGPT. Say, I want you to help me create a prompt to interact with a junior product manager because I wanted it to be very explicit in its instructions. And, for each of the variables and the formats, and use appropriate techniques like 5 whys or 6 hats whenever you think they're appropriate. All right. So use the best technique, and obviously it doesn't care about spelling errors for each of the variable content. And so now I tell it to think step by step. Again, this is a good thing to do. It does like chain of thought prompting, if you know what that is, so anyhow, go think step by step. So it goes through and it analyzes and it breaks down the steps. So it gives you a better understanding of what it's doing. So it comes back and it walks through and it gives me a bunch of steps. So the technique, define the core problem. It's key to a problem statement. And the technique it suggests we use is 5 whys. And so then it gives me a prompt. All right. And I'm not going to read through every one of these, but what is the core issue we're trying to solve? Start by describing the core issue. Let's apply to 5 whys to uncover the root cause. For example, why is this issue occurring? Why is it happening? And it walks through and then gives an example of why it would be good, right? So this is helpful. And it goes through and that's good. And so now what I want to do, so we get to the bottom and then it's going to formulate and then it comes up with an example. So that's all cool. So now what I want to do is I want to ask it to evaluate its own prompts. So evaluate your own prompts, make any adjustments needed to improve the prompts, and then create one final prompt with the information needed to be used as instructions for a custom GPT. So eventually what I want to be able to do is automate this so I can share with my team and they can just call the custom GPT and run it. So I want it to come up and it's going to be a complicated prompt. So why not let ChatGPT help me build it? And so it says, after evaluating the prompt, I've made adjustments to improve clarity and completeness. And here's my refined approach. And if you recall, what I asked it to do was just give me the prompts. So this is actually important. One of the things that I've noticed is that if you feed ChatGPT a prompt and then ask it to review it, it's almost better the second time it reviews it. So it's an interesting technique. And so after you evaluate the prompt, so it comes back and it says, here's what we're going to do. Here's the first prompt, second prompt, third, fourth, and then finally it's going to formulate the answer. And here's the format that it's going to file. So all good so far. I could go in and run these individually. And so now what it does is says, okay, custom GPT instructions for creating a problem statement. And so it goes through and I could copy and paste this. Actually, I did that in the first run and it was pretty good, but wasn't perfect. So let me show you the custom GPT that I came out with, and then I'll link this in the video so that you can actually see the innards. And so here it is. So what I did was, and again, this is what you have to do when you go through creating these prompts. So I fed that prompt exactly like ChatGPT gave it to me. I fed it in, and I noticed it did a couple things that I didn't like. One is it went through it showed me the 5 whys, and it said, go through the 5 whys. What I wanted to do is I wanted to do this. I wanted to say, let's dig deeper, and then keep asking me these questions. Where is it? What is the core you're trying to do? High level. Oh, okay. Here, right here. Ask the human the first why, and then modify each successive why depending on the previous answer. So I don't want ChatGPT to just dump it to me and say, go through 5 whys. I want ChatGPT to continue to help me when I'm running this GPT. So it's gonna come up with the first why for me. I'm gonna answer it. Based on my answer, it'll now come back and ask me a different why. And now what happens is it actually helps me narrow down and make sure I'm talking about the right problem. For example, if I start talking about a problem, and actually the more general you are when you start with this, the better it is, because now it'll help you narrow it down. But if I start with a problem statement where I think my problem is with customer support and they're just taking too long to get calls, and the reason is that they're inundated with new calls. Why is that? Maybe there's a problem upstream where basically we built a product that was it had higher defect rate than we expected. So customer support wasn't prepared for it. Going through 5 whys will help you figure out the root cause of the problem. So it's cool. So we do that. And then task 2, task 3, basically going through, making sure we have metrics analysis. And then, so basically tweak these so it's a little bit more interactive. So that's pretty cool. And then now what I want to do is, and so what I did was I walked through that. So I know the scrolling was a little annoying, but I went through, walked through it, walk through the analysis with me. I don't know how to quantify some of these questions. I didn't know how to quantify them. And so it came back and it gave me some suggestions. And then at the end, what does it do? It creates this awesome problem statement. So the point is, I know I went through this fairly quickly. And like I said, I'll attach or put a link to the end result prompt. But what I want you to think about is if there are guides, say SOPs, you can easily convert them into prompts and then into custom GPTs that you can either use yourself or with your coworkers, share onboarding experience. But these are things that you can go through and iterate with ChatGPT to create the prompts for you. All right. Have fun.